So I think one of the biggest aspects of life that people have the hardest time with, including myself, is incorporating positivity into their day-to-day lives. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean just about anything in general. In my case, it's come about just in every situation that I can think of. I've never been the most positive person, and it's really affected pretty much every aspect of my life, if I'm being real. And I feel like the biggest one being my confidence altogether. When you aren't a positive person and you see everything in a negative light, what tends to happen is that due to the fact that you see everything negatively, a lot of that negativity also portrays back onto yourself, and then of course that lowers your self-esteem. And I feel like that's kind of been the case with me for about everything I've done in my life, and it's something I'm really trying to make a change on. Now, in this case, with my negativity, it's always been that no matter what I do, it's never really been enough for me. And that, I could do so well in something and exceed so well, and everybody sees that too. But in my eyes, it's never good enough. And feeling that way is really hard, because when you feel that way, you always feel like you're never going to get to a point where you're truly satisfied. And I mean, I'm not saying that you need to be satisfied in something. There's times to be satisfied though. For example, like, I run track and cross country. Not really cross country anymore, more so track. Let's say I run a mile in 4:30, which is slower for me. Let's say I ran that a week ago or something like that. I'd probably be still upset about that now. Not as much in this case anymore, but maybe a year or two ago, running something slower like that would definitely have an effect on me, that's for certain. And it's something that just sticks with me. And it's always that mindset of, that wasn't good enough, I didn't run fast enough, I didn't do whatever this is good enough. And you don't take away the positive aspects of whatever that is. So in this case, it could be that I ran a 4:30 mile, but I still won my race. You know what I'm saying? There's still something positive to take out of that. And I guess the thing when it comes to negativity and positivity is that it's so easy to take out all the negative aspects of something in life. And with that being said, nobody ever seems to remember to take out the positives with it as well. Because you can take out the negatives all you want, but what are you going to be able to do with those once you have them? When you take out the negatives first and think about those only, you're going to allow yourself to sit on those negatives and think on them more and more and more and make yourself feel worse, essentially. The best way you can take negatives is a means of, what can I improve on for next time, for whatever this is? What can I do better, essentially? It's not a means of, I did a terrible job, I should be ashamed of myself. I didn't do what I wanted to do, and now I'm a horrible person. And when you constantly force that down your throat, your self-esteem and your confidence just drops like nobody's business. You know what I mean? Like, you just feel worse and worse about yourself, and then going into everything you do, you start not to care as much because you always assume that whatever negative outcome that's played through your head already is going to become the truth. And constantly having this negative thinking, at least for me, something that always kind of came about that was that I often got depressed a lot. And it was prolonged depression as well that I never really treated all that well. I mean, sure, I'm in therapy still, and I was back then when I was kind of more of a negative person. But I don't know, it was hard to feel like I mattered in this world, and it felt hard to feel like I had a purpose in this world. When you see everything in a negative light, it gets hard to honestly want to live. It gets hard to feel like your life is worth living when you see the world as shit. And I mean, realistically, the world is shit, But if you always are taking the negatives at every situation, you are going to be the most unhappy and insufferable person on the planet. Because no matter what you do in life, there's always something positive to take out of it. And that's the thing, that if you were like me in the past and you were looking at everything and taking the negatives first, it's not too late to turn that around. You can still reverse the damage, essentially, and be able to look at things in a more positive light. Now, I learned this little thing about this kind of stuff from this book I've been reading called The Subtle Art of Not Giving, or Subtle Art of How to Not Give a Fuck, I think it's called, by Mark Manson. Something like that. Still reading it. Great book, FYI. I recommend it to everybody who's watching right now. It's absolutely phenomenal and has taught me a lot of things that I didn't realize that other people suffered through as well. And it gave me a different perspective on them as well. But one of the main key things I've taken from that book is this little thing called the feedback from hell. Or the feedback loop from hell, sorry. And it's essentially when you think about, or it's like when you're sad and you think about why you're sad, and you get sad about thinking that you're sad because you're sad, or something like that. And it's in this cycle of just nonstop, and it causes a whole bunch of issues and whatnot. That wasn't the greatest explanation of what it actually is. To get a better understanding of what the feedback loop from hell is, I just recommend reading the book. You can get it on Amazon and pretty much anywhere else that you can think of when it comes to books. It's not a very long read. It's pretty good. Again, recommend it to all of you. Check it out. It deals with the kind of stuff I talk about as well. But, yeah, no. So, just having that kind of mindset all the time, it makes you just essentially self-loathe yourself, even more so than you realized you could. It makes you just essentially not want to be around anymore, when all you can do is take out the negatives from everything you do in life. Say, for example, you're at your job and you're getting a rush and you're doing so much stuff at once, you're getting stressed out. Okay? Sure, you might be getting a lot of people who are wanting something all at once, and you're stressed out trying to do all of it at once, and the people that you're working with are stressing you out too. That might be the case. However, look at it this way. You're making money and you're spending your time in the right way. You're saving extra money, or being able to get extra money to get something that you want or need, essentially. That's the positives from it. And you're also doing something that's essentially team building and whatnot. So, I mean, that wasn't really the greatest example in the world, but you get what I'm trying to go for here. So, me being a negative person, of course, in some ways, it's not an easy thing to escape fully. And it's something that I'm still, of course, trying to work on every day. I do feel like I'm at a different point in my life where I'm not that same negative Spencer that I used to be. But I do feel like sometimes that old negative version of myself tends to come out in certain situations. It is something I'm trying to work on. And actually, I have a little template for you guys to use here. And it's something you can incorporate into your day-to-day lives too. And it's a routine habit kind of thing. Like, essentially, it's kind of routine because it checks into a couple of different areas of your life. So what I do about 30 minutes before I go to bed is I turn all my electronics off, have no blue light going whatsoever, and I journal for that last 30 minutes. And in that 30-minute journal session, what I do 4 different things. The first one is a full-page summary of my day, and I tried my best, especially lately, to not really write about the negatives. It is good to write about the negatives because it gets them out of your brain and allows you to not think about them. Once they're on paper, it essentially is meaning like it's not in your mind anymore. It's not there to occupy space. You've gotten it out on something separate from your brain and you don't have to think about it anymore. It's in the pages It's out of your system. Set it and forget it, essentially. So that's something I've been doing. But I try to write more about the positives of my day because it makes you feel better and makes you feel more accomplished. And that sense of accomplishment that you get from writing those positives down every day is a little bit of an ego boost, honestly. It makes you feel better about the things that you did. So that's the first part, is just full summary of my day, things I did, things I'm happy of and proud of. Bam. Step 1 done. Step 2 is 3 things I'm grateful for. These can be literally anything, and it's not just 3 things I'm grateful for in general, it's 3 things that I'm grateful for that came from that day. So I'm going to give you 3 examples of something that I could be grateful about, or something that I'm grateful about from that day. First one, just getting a really good meal in that I cooked myself. 2, enjoying a sunset bike ride. And 3, getting to have a fire with my family, like in the evening or something like that. It's 3 simple things that, like, you know, they're nothing too crazy, but there's something that you're happy about. You're happy that they happened and they made your day a little extra special. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like a reassurance of, like, okay, maybe you didn't have the greatest day this day, but we're not going to worry about what wasn't great about it. We're going to focus on some things that were good about it. Because no matter how bad your situation could be, or in a certain day, there's always something you can take from it that is positive. So please remember that and take that into every day in general, honestly. And then the third part of my 30-minute journal session is a list of goals. And these goals don't have to be for the next day. They can be for the rest of the week, and they can really happen when you want them to happen. But the important thing is that you accomplish them. It doesn't feel great when you get to the end of the week and you look back at some of these goals and you tell yourself, man, I did not accomplish some of these goals. And it's okay to accomplish or to not accomplish a couple of them, because sometimes some weeks you're not able to accomplish certain goals. That's the way it is. But it's important to try and get as many of them out as you can, because realistically, something that I've also learned from the book that I'm currently reading is that happiness actually can come from solving your own problems and accomplishing goals, essentially. If you have a goal that you want to achieve or something you want to solve, actually doing that and getting it out of your system feels fucking amazing, honestly. It feels super good to be able to do that and get it out of your headspace. So if you're looking for something else to try to make yourself feel better in a sense, if you have goals in mind or things you want to do or achieve, simply go and do them. Make a list of your goals in a journal or on a piece of paper, I don't care. Write them down, put a checkbox next to each of them, and check each one off throughout the week. You don't have to do everything in one day, but get as many out as you can in that 1 week. And then for the next week, write a new set of goals. They don't have to be anything crazy, but as long as there's something there, that's all that's important, you know? If you can get something down on a piece of paper to write as a list of goals, perfect. And something I always like to include at the very bottom of my list of goals is be better than you were today. That goes for, this is something that I write at the bottom of each of my list of goals every single day. Be better than you were today. Whatever you did today, tomorrow, do it even better. Because if you do it tomorrow even better, then the day after that, you can do it even better than you did that day. And then you keep going and so on. So essentially, every day, you're always going to become a better version of yourself. Not that you're not going to run into bumps along the road and go back a little bit, because you always have to go a step back to go 2 steps forward. It's not possible to always go upwards with progression, because progression is not something that's linear. Progression is something that is more like this. You're going to go up, but you're also going to go down at the same time. You're going to go down like this, and you're going to go up like that, and you're going to go down, up, so on like that. Progression is not something that is just a straight line upwards. It takes time in whatever field you're going into. And then my fourth piece of my journal session is positive affirmations. It sounds kind of cheesy. It kind of is, but it really works. And essentially what positive affirmations are is kind of another way of reassurance. It's kind of similar to the 3 things I'm grateful for in a way, but it's essentially saying to yourself that I will do this, I will do that, I can do this, I will not do this. And it's reinforcing the fact that you are going to do these things. It kind of is is the second part to the list of your goals that you've made for yourself. But essentially, you're saying to yourself that I will do these. I can do this. You're not going to have any negativity in that affirmations part. It's not negative affirmations. We don't need that in our lives. We need the positive ones only. Positive affirmations only are the key to your success, because they're taking your list of goals and essentially ingraining into your brain that, oh, I am going to make sure I do this, and I'm going to do that, so on, so on. And and you write as many of those as you like to down. I usually write about 10 to 12 positive affirmations. They're usually 2 to 3 sentences along a piece. Nothing too crazy. But the fact that matters most is that you give yourself that little extra boost of confidence and I can do this, I'm not scared of a challenge. If it's something that's going to make me uncomfortable, that's great, because in life we can't ever be too comfortable. When we get too comfortable, then we don't go any further and we don't make progression. So yeah, if there's anything I can suggest that you guys take away from today's video, is that concluding all of this and putting all the pieces together, positivity is such an important part of your life. And if you aren't a positive person, that doesn't make you a bad person. But in the grand scheme of things, it's going to be harder to make relationships with people around you, especially with future partners. Nobody wants to get with somebody who's miserable all the time and is always talking about the bad things that happen in their lives. It's also just a toxic relationship, because you're talking about all the bad aspects of everything. And most likely, really, when anybody surrounds themselves with negative people, they're going to become negative themselves. And nobody wants to turn into a negative Nelly, you know what I mean? It's not good for our brains. We need positivity in our lives to bring us up and help us progress further as people. So yeah, that's all I got for today. Stay blessed, folks.